sex format on over people in Mixer on the internet. Sex.
Hello, everybody. It is 11:17 a.m. Central Time on the 2nd of August, 2018. Here we are on Thursday in the States, going towards Friday internationally, and I hope you're doing well. We are here on the Earthquake 3D livestream to talk about a few seismic events that have struck since last night. And to do that, let me turn on a display capture so you can see what I see. And we'll show you with the pointer what struck. So we're going to start down here near New Zealand. Last night going into this morning, a 5.9 to 6.0 earthquake, along with a 5.5 just to its north, striking right here at North New Zealand into the South Kermadec Islands. Pretty big earthquake for the location, guys. Also, let's go down to the south because the plate boundary got hit at Wellington with a 4.2 and 4.3. Add those together, that equals 4.42. So we got a 4.4's worth of energy expended across the plate boundary from Wellington, and we've got a 6.0, 5.9 on 5.5. If you take the 5.9 and 5.5, add them together, it equals 6.005. So it's a 6.0 to the north and a 4.5 to the south, basically all within the last few hours. So check off New Zealand off the list if you were keeping track of the north and center. We were looking at the center for a mid-range to upper 4 to strike, and we were looking for 5.0 activity to strike on the north part of the island, just north. There it is. Now over to the west, look what we've got. We've got a new 5.0 and a 5.3 striking right next to our warned area. This is on top of the previous earthquakes that struck. So we've got two different earthquakes, or the previous earthquake that struck. The 5.3 was from yesterday, the 5.0 is from today. That's really what I'm getting at here. And then you see the earthquakes in red, and you see where our 5s are in whitish pink. So the red earthquakes were the first to strike, and now the middle point has been filled in. We call the middle point the fulcrum point, and the fulcrum point has been struck yet once again. As we go over to the west, nothing new since last night in the West Pacific, seismically speaking. So this is all what we covered last night in these pink-colored earthquakes going all the way up to China next to Nepal. But look what we got, guys. A new deep earthquake up here. Sea of Okhotsk, and it's coming in at 332 kilometers deep. Well, if we consult our depth to magnitude conversion chart put together by Bella and Rebecca, look at 300 kilometers deep. What do? We add on 0.7 magnitude to this deep quake. Adding on 0.7 takes us up to 5.2. So there's likely a 5.2 that's going to be striking next to this deep quake downstream. That would put us most likely over here to the east. However, when we see deep earthquakes here, sometimes we see force flow over to the west following our arrows across China. And, I mean, it all depends on where it strikes in relation to the plate here next to China and Russia. I will watch for a new 5.2 type earthquake to be striking up here in North China. North China, we're looking. We have a warning going for you, and it still hasn't hit yet, or they haven't reported it. But, I mean, we'd have to go consult the Chinese agency to know, so it is what it is. Over to the west, we have new activity that broke out across Europe. Look who got hit today. Let's look at our larger earthquakes. Greece and Bulgaria both got struck. I mean, come on. So there's a 4.5 and a 4.1. The 4.5 is right on the doorstep of Italy, and the 4.1 is right on the doorstep of Romania. You'll notice the 4.1 is directly on our red arrow. The red arrow goes up and around and goes to where? To where our other 4.0 earthquake was. So Poland moved, Bulgaria moved, Greece moved, and then going out here to the mid-Atlantic ridge, we got another earthquake up in Iceland. The cumulative total of what's striking in Iceland now, 3.5, 3.3, 3.1. How much more proof do you need? Take the 3.5 plus the 3.3, that equals 3.63. Add in the 3.1, we're at 3.74. So now we're right nearing the threshold of what came out of Europe to begin with, which is a 4.0's worth of energy, and it's expending over the course of days. Remember what I told you last night about Portugal getting hit, right? And I said it was going to go out here towards Azores? Well, Portugal, or North Spain, right at the Portugal border, 3.0 earthquake after last night's 3.2 at the Pyrenees. 3.2 at the Pyrenees goes down to a 2.9 as brute force, trying to flow across the plate, loses a little bit of energy across that distance, but it's not really that much loss of energy if you think about it. So the loss of energy on that is not really that great, going down from 3.2 to 2.9 across, what is that, 500 miles, 800 miles? So it's all flowing out of Europe, going out towards the mid-Atlantic ridge. Now we jump all the way back down here across the Pacific. So far, up here in Japan, no other activity to report to you seismically speaking except for the deep earthquake. Now we jump across the Pacific and we have another deep earthquake. This one coming in over here on our letter D at 213 kilometers deep. That's at the Bolivia-Argentina border. 213, eh? Okay, well, let's go consult the chart again and look at 200. It's the third column over, and we need to add on 0.4 magnitude to this deep quake. Well, if we add on 0.4 to this 4.1, it takes us to a 4.5. So there should be a 4.5 that strikes next to this deep quake, following the flow, most likely to the south. You see which way our arrows point from the letter D here, and it goes down to the south to our travels underneath point. Nevado de Chilean, also Copihu, were both showing eruptions this past several days. And we can go consult the Volcanic Ash Advisory Center. By the way, speaking of the Volcanic Ash Advisory Center, they tried to say that, or they are saying, that 22,000-foot high blast that was reported yesterday from the volcano in Ecuador, well, they're trying to say that was a mistake now. Yeah, a mistake. Let me get a sip of my coffee. Okay. So let's go down the Volcanic Ash Advisory Center list, see who's on it. Sakurajima in Japan, Sabancaya in Peru, Sakurajima again, Krakatau back with a 7,000-foot high blast. Turrialba in Costa Rica, Reventador in Ecuador, Krakatau, Sabancaya, Turrialba, Ducono, Reventador, Sabancaya, Copihu, as I just mentioned down at the Chile-Argentina border, Nevado de Chilean, KMB, that's the name of it. Yeah, KMB, all right, so here's yesterday's report. We have received information suggesting a possible volcanic ash emission. We will gather further information and issue a full advisory as soon as possible. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, well then the Washington Volcanic Ash Advisory Center then came out and said that it was a mistake. It hasn't erupted in 230 years. They made a mistake. 22,000-foot high mistake. Here's Nevado de Chilean, like I told you, and that gets us into the day before, which was Karimsky, ending off the day before. So, jumping back over and taking a look at the earthquakes, now that we know where the eruptions are happening, we can take that into account. We have the two volcanoes, well, really one, Reventador here in Ecuador, and KMB, the mysterious 22,000-foot high mistake. And then here, down to the south, Sabancaya, down in South Peru, and then Copihu and Nevado de Chilean here, right where our arrow is. It says travels underneath. So the arrow pointing down to the south, we've got the volcanoes here that are excited. We've got an ongoing series of events at Sabancaya every day and at Reventador. Then going to the north, Turrialba, where the letter V is here on Costa Rica. And a new earthquake right next to it in Panama. No shock there. And then up to the north, even further, we have Popocatépetl in Mexico, which also erupted a couple days ago. Over in the Eastern Caribbean, just a few threes to show to you today. I think that's going to be changing by the end of the weekend. Definitely that's going to be changing by the end of the weekend with what's going on here with the fives. So we've got fives back behind all this, and out in front of it a swarm struck, and that's it. Nothing reaching out to our X's yet, which means pressure's trapped in between Mexico and the letter X's. What's in between Mexico and the letter X's? You see it. It's where our swarms are happening at the Eastern Caribbean. So, let's jump out here into the Central Pacific and talk about Hawaii. What has happened since last night? Anything change at all since last night? How about a series of new earthquakes, again, striking across Mauna Loa? 2.9 and 2.7, again, since last night. Now, last night I talked about it, and I showed you the 2.8s. Well, now look at it. This is in the last 24 hours. So, last 24 hours, you can see it across all of Mauna Loa. But in the last 12 hours, since my update last night, those 2.7s and 2.9. So either way you want to look at it, 24 or 12 hours, we got something going on at Mauna Loa, seismically speaking, guys. Nobody can ignore it anymore. If you do, If the professionals ignore this anymore, if it develops into a problem, people will be able to sue the government and stuff, guys, because you'll be able to point to people online talking about it, me trying to wave my hands and say, hey, you know, we need to talk about this. If anything happens at Mauna Loa now, from now going forward, they're on the hook for ignoring it. Because, I mean, I've talked about it long. What has it been, 3 weeks of this? Okay. So, not a peep from the professionals. We're going to go put the coordinates in and show you where these earthquakes are happening. So, you need to pay attention to this. Why? Because if a shift picks up in pace at Mauna Loa, it could lead to an eruption. I'm not saying it's going to now. I'm just saying that it could in the future if there's more activity. And it would be in the near-term future. It wouldn't be one of these long-term, not a 50-year probability of this and that. No, we've got ongoing swarms that are starting at the outside perimeter of the volcano and then going across the crater. And that's where we are now. Look where we are. So it's something that must be paid attention to and talked about. We can't be scared to talk about this. Why are there 3.0 earthquakes striking all the way around Mauna Loa right now? They said it was background level and said no earthquake activity of any significant size was happening in Mauna Loa. That was a completely incorrect statement. It was false. It was false. Because when they said that, there was actually, a few dozen earthquakes at Mauna Loa directly. And they were deleting them, too. That was the other thing, is that they were deleting the 3s and 4s, the 4.5 and 4.9. They were deleting them. So, and not reporting them. Now, I don't know why, but for whatever, I would think that there would probably be some kind of governor's orders, senators, governors, where they're all like, oh, this is going to ruin tourism if there's earthquakes that are happening up in Mauna Loa. No, to increase tourism, guys. Hello. You embrace this stuff about your island. You don't run from it. You embrace this portion of your island, and you say, this is how our island forms. This is awesome. This is the way it goes. Now, there's people that it's not awesome for the people who are displaced. So let's separate science awesome from real life awesome. Okay, I'm just talking about awesome as in it's something amazing that needs to be observed and studied. But now awesome, as in cool. No. The people over here are, severely affected by all this, and they will be for the next several months or even longer as this builds in pressure, because Kilauea has collapsed, and down below there's a buildup that's occurring as new magma starts to come inside of the magma chamber and reservoirs down below. Now, how do we know magma is starting to come up down below Kilauea again? The lava river has gone down significantly from where it was. It's still flowing, don't get me wrong, and it's still a steady flow, but steady is a relative term. It's steadily lower than where it was. And we know that from pictures and video that has been released in the past few days. A concerned citizen, flew their drone over the area to get video of that, and now we can't find that. But anyways, we saw the video. That's all we needed to see, and the pictures do now tell the tale. What the video showed us as well is that there's a steep embankment on both sides of the channel, letting us know that the levels of lava are going down in the river while they're surging still from time to time as weight pushes down on top of the entire chamber. So this is still collapsing, and we can jump over to the live stream from the USGS. Take a look at this. This is a live shot out of the cameras from the HVO, and what you'll see here is some steam coming up. This steady little supply of steam right there keeps coming from the same location, and that location is down inside the crater from a single spot that is heavily steaming, as opposed to the collapse points around the outside edge of the crater are also producing small amounts of steam. And when there's an actual collapse, then you will actually see a kick up of dust and maybe a little bit more steam, but nothing like this. This steam is coming from something else, and I showed it to you last night in the update last night, but I can show it to you again. We can scroll down on their page, and they do have some new pictures. Okay. Oh, wow, look. Hey, we got a new radar image. New radar image. Everybody put the brakes on. New radar image. We get to see what's going on inside the crater. God bless their hearts. God bless their hearts. Wow. Whoa. Look at this. Up to August 1st. Up to yesterday. So, we now can speak definitively on the shape that this new caldera is taking. I'm going to have to say that is half. Half of the caldera has collapsed. Maybe even just a little bit more of the than half, but a good portion of the caldera has collapsed and is now really sinking down. You can watch it go down, 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 down. And then at the center of that, it's even deeper. I'd say that's probably at least 1,500 feet deep at this point. And that's just a guess, but it was at 1,200 a few weeks ago. So it keeps going down. It's got to be a few hundred feet lower now. And every time it has an earthquake, they say there's about a 6-foot drop. So drop, 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 drop. Now, I want you to imagine what's down below this. So again, as this thing is collapsing and sinking, down below it is a huge chamber of magma. And this is like a weight on top of it, pushing down. Now, you can imagine weight pushing down on top of a liquid. Well, that's going to cause the liquid to shift inside of its container, especially if the container is partially empty. Well, as it goes out, where's it coming out? It's coming out over at Lalani Estates, 22 miles over to the east. So this is collapsing. It doesn't look like this anymore. This is gone. This crater is gone, and now half of the caldera itself has become the new craterdera. It's like half a crater, half a caldera at this point. Now, what will happen eventually here? See how it's collapsing. The lava river will go down, which it's starting to. That means down below where this is collapsing, there will be a point where it equalizes, and it doesn't collapse as much, or it even stops collapsing entirely as magma starts to push up and shore up the undersides. But then what will happen is there will be a block that happens there, a bottleneck, a cork at the top of all this debris that's sinking down right here. So all this debris that's sinking down is going to eventually get blown back out, or part of it will be blown back out in the course of, let's say... Oh, wait, hold on, I'm seeing something else here. Hold on, guys, hold on, hold on. Right at the end on the last frame, hold on. I'm glad I looked closer. Right on the end of the last frame, look just underneath the word caldera. Watch this. Look at that. Do you see this? Do you see these other cracks? Oh boy, hold on. We're not done yet. We are not done collapsing. Look. Look, 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 look. Watch these new fissures form and reach out to the northwest. It goes through the word caldera. Wow. Okay. Well, okay. Here's what I think is happening here. So half the caldera has collapsed. Now, coming off the top portion, or let's say the northern portion, new fissures are fanning out from there, going up to the edges over by the HVO. Look, it's like fanning out. Here, I'll show you again. Right here. And it's going up this way. So it's going to continue collapsing until that magma can shore up on the underside of this collapsing amount of weight. Now, what's the threshold? I don't know. I mean, somebody would have to calculate, and I don't think they could accurately do it. How many thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of tons of weight is associated with however many thousands of feet of rock that are collapsing down on top of this empty magma chamber? And I shouldn't call it empty because it really still has contents in it. That's why there's more coming out over to the east. But I found out something else. And this is from a bunch of mainstream news articles that were released about a year or 2 years ago. That they found out there's a connection between Kilauea and Mauna Loa's magma chambers. You know what? Later, let me show it to you actually. Hold on. Let's see. Mauna Loa Kilauea connection. There we go. There we go. Kilauea shares a deep link with neighboring Mauna Loa. All over the place, everywhere around. Oh, look at it. Well, everybody else picked this up already. So the magma chamber that's down below, they're connected. And they have Mauna Loa at the top. Again, we should be looking at that sideways, really. So you would have this over on one side and this over on the other. And down below, they're connected somewhere. Well, it could very well be that with the shifting of Mauna Loa, that it's like having a giant weight on the side of the chamber that's pushing on it as well, laterally. And Mauna Loa shifting from northwest to southeast, not shifting from southeast to northwest, and it's not just going to be going anywhere willy-nilly. It's going to be falling towards, moving towards the empty cavity next to it. And that explains the ring of earthquakes that are around Mauna Loa, and that may also explain explain the excessive pressure still pushing magma out when it should be equalizing right about now. Now, the lava river's dropping. What more do we need? If the lava river's dropping, then it's definitely going to be starting to resurge back up inside, or at least start to. Gases, heat, those sorts of things first will start to come back up through Kilauea's actual crater. Sulfur dioxide emissions will increase, steam will increase, earthquakes will increase back at the actual crater, but it'll be a different type of seismic activity. It might even be a little bigger. Instead of 2s and 3s, you might start seeing 4s and 5s regularly as the magma starts to push its way back up. And it's going to hit this bottleneck real quick, and then it'll build pressure. Once it builds too much, it'll blow. Then what'll happen is out of the inside of the crater, let's get back over here, out of the inside of here, somewhere, most likely inside of this, there will be a new blast that creates a new crater and a new lava lake. So inside the crater, there'll be a new smaller blast, or, well, it'll be a big blast, but it'll create a smaller hole like a volcano clearing its throat, and it's been blocked right now. The other option, and it's much more remote, is that it blows outside of the caldera and forms an entirely new crater and caldera not associated with the one directly here. And it's happened many times in the past. Look how many times in the past it's moved and shifted and blown out new craters. And new calderas formed. So that would be a once in a several thousand year event. And right now we're at a once in a few hundred year event, where the crater collapses and the caldera collapses, and then you'll get a new blast out of the crater or caldera itself. If we go outside of this, it goes into uncharted waters where humans, haven't really been observing this in Hawaii. So, I mean, we hope it happens inside the crater. The chance of nothing happening, I mean, is it just going to go away? No. It will blow out a new crater at the center of that pit or around it, sooner or later. Sooner or later means probably months or less. It won't be years of building pressure before Kilauea blows. It will be magma will start to come up inside. It'll hit a bottleneck. It'll build for a while, and then you'll get it. Because there'll be a threshold where all this weight of all the debris falling down on top of it won't be able to hold the pressure from the greater magma chamber down below. And then it blows. Equalizes, creates a new lava lake, new pit. But guess what happens when all that debris comes out? It shoots up into the air, gets created in ash, and a pyroclastic flow. And the pyroclastic flow, according to the USGS, is likely, or will happen, when it's possible, and I'd say it's likely, when it blows. There will be a pyroclastic flow that flows out around Kilauea. Now, the only question is, how big of a blast will it be? Is it going to be a small kiloton type blast that just blows it out here around Volcano, the town of Volcano, and the small little communities right here? Or will it be a bigger blast that puts the pyroclastic flow more out to Hawaii Volcanoes National Park and Mountain View? Or will it be a massive blast that sends a huge ash cloud and pyroclastic flow going all the way out to Mountain View and burying Hilo? I mean, we don't know. Or if it goes in the opposite direction, it could blow and go out to sea, depending on the shift of the wind, depending on what the wind is doing for the day or what storms are coming in for the afternoon. That could depend on where it goes. So these are big deals that we need to pay attention to, and one of the big deals we need to pay attention to is the swarm at Mauna Loa, in addition to the collapse at Kilauea. So that's your update in Hawaii. I want you to pay attention for new earthquakes, of course. Have an earthquake plan, because when this magma starts to come punching back up and hit the underside of Kilauea that's capped off, there's going to be an increase in seismic activity. See all these 2s and 3s? It's just boatloads of 2s and 3s and 2s and 3s and 2s and 3s as it collapses and collapses. Well, imagine what's going to happen when it starts to refill. Right? Those 2s and 3s, the magnitudes will start to go up. It'll go up to 3s and 4s and 5s. Not just one a day, it'll be a whole bunch as the magma starts to intrude back up into these empty crevices that are in there. Now, let's get into the United States mainland. What happened here? Well, we had a new earthquake in Kansas. Kansas got hit. And you may remember we talked about watching at the Kansas border last week and at central Oklahoma this week. Well, Kansas got hit last week, Oklahoma got hit this week, and now we're back to Kansas again. So we just go right across the border from one another. They're like 50 miles apart. And what's at this location? Just like all the other locations that are nearby, let me show you. We have a lot of pumping going on. Now, in here, right next to the earthquake, I'm going to try and find our nearest pumping operation. I don't have them all marked, not even close. And here's one right here, for instance. We can go down the road and see if there's any more out in these fields. A lot of them are old, so they have an old oil well. Still working, of course, like stationed out in a field with no pad around it or anything. So to find it, it's a little bit hard. It can become a little bit tedious to do searching for these pumping ops, but you will find them, and we're definitely within 6 to 10 miles over to the west with that pumping op. But pumping operations, oil and gas, stand out as weak points. The weak points come under pressure as force is exerted on the edge of the plate. So we have pumping operations right here. All these pads. Oh, this is a new one right here. So it's got a new freshly cleared pad, a new berms around it, new tanks and pipelines. They've really opened this back up for new exploration and for actual production. That was in like 2014, 2015, 2016. They really broke it open. And now here they are, and they're expanding. So I wouldn't be surprised to find out that there's more out here somewhere. Here's a great example of one out in the field that you just have to look. I mean, you got to know what to look for, right? I mean, this high up, look. Do you see it? Well, let's go this high up. Do you see it? You can't even see it from that high up. Now, the real question is, are there any more right here? I'll dig around and have an answer tonight by 10 p.m. Most likely there are. And then we get over on the West Coast in our diagonal line of quakes that we showed you last night, right? We showed it all to you last night. Today, look what else hit. Do you notice anything about these earthquakes? Well, first of all, they're at the perimeters of each end that got hit last night. But look at the magnitudes. 2.7 and 2.7. That's it. Nothing else? Really? Okay, well, let's go look at our smaller earthquakes, see if anything's going on there. Get another sip of my coffee. So, let's go down 12 hours, look at everything since last night. There we go. So, you know what I'm seeing here in 12 hours' time? A drop-off. A drop-off in activity at the California-Nevada border. A drop-off in activity down in South California, but a new pickup in East LA. Look at that. East LA getting hit, and the creeping section of the San Andreas getting hit with a 2.1, or up to San Francisco actually even, but 2.1, 2.3, 1.6, 1.8, 1.6, 1.7, 1.9, 1.8, 1.1. So really on one side we've got a 2.1. On the other side we've got a 1.1. And in the middle we've got a bunch of activity, but not the center. The center we normally see get hit with the largest. And so far the center is hit with a swarm instead of this 2.3 right next to it. All this says to me is that there's creeping going on the creeping section of the San Andreas. Just basic logic. You get a bunch of earthquakes that strike in a diagonal line down the creeping section of the San Andreas, going from northwest to southeast. I think you're going to have to determine that that means the creeping section of the San Andreas is moving northwest to southeast at the moment. Or at least the seismic pressure is moving that way, along the creeping section. That'd be a better way to refer to it. So I would like to go pull the coordinates on this new earthquake swarm in East LA, Glendora, California. What is at the location? Inquiring minds want to know. And so do I, so let's go find out. Where are we going in on? Well, we've got a little mountain road here. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Is there anything else nearby? Well, we got a quarry. Is that what that is? No? Yes? No? No, look, maybe a landfill. That might be a landfill, guys. All right, what else do we have nearby at Glendora? Okay, well, I'm not seeing any marked pumping operations of any kind. It's starting to look a little interesting because if we don't have any pumping operations nearby, then there's some other reason for the earthquake to be striking there that's not a drill point. Unless they're doing new exploratory out here. You know, the roads are maintained out here for a reason, but it looks like highway... I don't know. Maybe somebody, if you live out here, you might have a little bit more information for me on the location. I don't know if it's been drilled. Doesn't look like it. Doesn't look like it, but it does look like... I mean, somebody's using the roads for something, right? Like, you don't just have backcountry roads that, you know, state highway. Ooh. Well, all right. I'm not going to do that now while we're live, but we should poke around and see if we can find anything there. All right, so a swarm is happening there. You know what? I want to consult the USGS fault zone map. Maybe there's a reason. Maybe there's a fault right there. Is it a fault? Oh, it is. Of course. Well, this is the San Andreas to the east, but the one I'm looking at here, the Sierra Madre fault zone clamshell saw pit section. Clamshell saw pit canyon. All right. Well, there it is. So it goes right up into this. And that goes down to a fault zone that connects from, basically, from the San Andreas all the way down to the coast. Interesting. You know what? We may need to look along this line. Goes through Pasadena, out to the coast at Santa Monica and down here south of Oxnard. May need to look out there for new earthquake activity to strike in the next couple hours. Or like by tonight or something. Interesting. Okay. Well, that's almost bigger than what's going on down at Ann's Gap, which is a slow slip. We're slow slipping on Ann's Gap, which is the San Jacinto section of the fault zone there next to San Andreas. And it's a diagonal line as well. See? Diagonal line this way. Hopefully you guys can make this all out. Yeah. Diagonal line this way, and it connects right up to here. So really, you could follow it right up to here, and that's the movement. Then you follow it and connect it up here. Now, we go over here along the California-Nevada border, and this is where we dropped off, man. We went down. We were at a major swarmage, and then, puff, gone. Well, same time the swarmage dropped off at Mammoth, we saw a pickup or an increase going up to the east-northeast. So that went over to the Midwest, which went over to the New Madrid seismic. Oh, look at that. A 1.0 earthquake striking next to Maine. Well, Maine, New Hampshire. Hey, I live up here. Go park the car at the car park. Hey, guys. Hit the chip quick. Yeah, okay, there we go. So, over here on the West Coast, what's going on? We see a drop-off along the California-Nevada border as force flowed across the plate. But I think you're going to notice something missing in the last 12 hours up here in Washington and Oregon and Idaho. No earthquakes. Not even a 0.0. Oh, earthquakes just stopped up here all of a sudden. Okay. Let's go look at the real-time tremor map from the University of Washington, see if anything's going on there. 24 hours. Oh, well, I'll be damned. As soon as the earthquakes stop, all of a sudden the tremors start as the plate starts shifting. See these red dots happening in pockets across, well, south of Seattle at Olympia and north of Medford, south of Eugene, and also down at Redding, California. Well, where there's a distinct lack of earthquake activity, the tremors, which are small vibrations, they're not earthquakes. The tremors indicate the plate is shifting to the north. So the plate up north is shifting. Down south, it's starting to die out, and it flowed over to the east. So we're getting a new push. That's what I'm getting at right now. We are getting a new push. Look at 48 hours, and it just adds more events to the same locations. Now, coincidentally, down south, Oregon and Northern California, where these red dots are, that's where the fires are. That's where the fires broke out. And the red dots were there first. So the tremors and the plate started shifting first. Then the fires broke out. Now, people are trying to tell me that's coincidence. It could be. I'm not going to say it's not. It could be coincidence that only our volcanoes and our earthquake swarm locations are the spots where these sudden fire outbreaks are happening. It could be. Not willing to, I'm not going to, totally discount that. But when you start seeing it happen, this is the 14th to 15th time we've seen this happen in 8 years, where it doesn't matter what time of year it is, doesn't matter whether it's wet or dry, doesn't matter whether there's snow and water on the mountains or not, that as soon as we start seeing a huge seismic increase, all of a sudden these sudden fires break out next to our volcanoes and our swarm spots. I don't know what to make of it. I tried pointing it out to people, and everybody called me a conspiracy theorist just for showing it to you and telling you what I think might be, oh, a volcano and a fire. Oh, my God. Especially when they're deserts. Okay. So, let's carry on. Let's go look at the actual satellite imagery for last night going into this morning and see what's going on here. Let's look at the last 200 images, and we're looking at the continent. I'm going to turn on true color. We just want to see what the fires are doing. I just want... Look at it last night out here to the west, guys. Look at it. I mean, that was last night. All of Northern California, all of Nevada pretty much, except for Reno at this point. And then up in Idaho and Washington. Look up in North Washington here. The biggest outbreak. I mean, huge fire. Huge. And I misspoke. Oh, by the way, I misspoke in my video. Everybody wants to correct me every time I say anything impossibly incorrect. Over here, I said Glacier National Park, and I meant to say Glacier Peak. Okay? So, here's Glacier Peak. Here's Glacier Peak in Washington, Glacier Peak. I pointed the area, I said Glacier National Park, and everybody's like, Glacier National Park's in Montana. You need to learn more geology. You need to learn your topography. I was pointing to this spot. I said Glacier National Park, and I meant to say Glacier Peak. And the volcano is called Glacier Peak. Okay. All right. And again, it's funny that people will take me to task on that, but won't share the earthquake forecast when I get it right, eh? All right, let's look today and see what's going on out on the West Coast this morning. Oh, there it is. Look what's going on. So our fire up in Washington is still ongoing, and our fires, of course, in Northern California and Oregon are still ongoing. Now, I'm going to look. Since a new cluster or swarm is broken out down in Olympia, we might need to look for fires to break out around Olympia. Right? I mean, everywhere where these swarms are starting to take place, I'm going to start watching for some kind of seismic activity to relate to fires. I am. And if it doesn't, that's good too, but I'm just going to keep watch, just in case. And I'd like you to do the same. I don't have any earthquakes to report to you out of the region, so that's the end of the update for the Northwest, right? Wrong. Wrong. Take a look at the screen. We're going over to the Natural Resources of Canada page. My viewers contacted me last night and told me that some fours were striking up here at the coast of the Northwest and the USGS wasn't reporting them. Even though the USGS is reporting fours elsewhere around the planet. Fours, not 4.5 or greater. I'm talking USGS is reporting fours around the rest of the planet, guys. We've seen it in other countries. So what hit? What hit? Take a look at the screen, guys. Over the past few days, series of earthquakes have struck up here off the coast of the Northwest. Look at that. Well, 3s, 2s. Now, again, the 4. Where's the 4? Well, the 4 that was reported to me by my viewers was deleted by NR Canada yesterday after they reported it to me. Now, I viewed it. I didn't show it to you last night, but it's gone now. I'm just pointing that out to all my viewers. You guys go contacting me publicly and state that there's an earthquake that's being hidden. You can bet there's probably a few phone calls that are made, and that earthquake is either taken care of or somebody else. I'm standing by that. I know for certain the professionals are in contact with each other in collusion to deal with me. I'm 100% certain collusion. So they're colluding with others to conspire to cause catastrophe in my operation. Now, there's many people and a few lawyers now who think that that may be pushing the levels of legalities, right? Especially if you're using your business to do it during business hours, engaging in libel and slander, using your business against other people, of course. I'm not a business. I'm just a person. So, all right. 11:55 a.m. Central Time. Do you have an earthquake plan? Do you know what to do when an earthquake strikes? Hey, hold on, everybody. Stop. Look. New earthquake just struck right in the middle of our warned area. The middle point of the middle point just got hit. Look at that. Look at this. New 5.0 earthquake striking right in the middle of our warned area. New Caledonia, the bend in the J curve between the D and the small island. The sliver of an island here and the letter D here. And our warned area in between. And now it has just been filled in. And it's been a minute. Let's see. We have to go back, what, 6 days? No, it's been 6 days. There hasn't been anything there. 6 days hasn't been anything there. You know, I had somebody make a chart saying that regular earthquakes happen here all the time. It's been a week, bro. Well, there it is. Now it's hit. And it's hit right in our warned area. It could have hit anywhere, right? If earthquakes were random, it could have hit out here, could have hit down here, could have hit over in Australia. Instead, it hit right on our plate boundary, right in the middle of our fulcrum point between our two previous sets of quakes. So now, let me ask you, do you have an earthquake plan? Do you know what to do when an earthquake strikes? Take shelter, of course, if you're in a building that can withstand the earthquake. But a lot of buildings, brick and cinder block especially, can become compromised when an earthquake striking for a few 30 seconds, a minute, a large earthquake. You can see compromise of the structure. So you need to have an exit plan as well. So first, shelter in place, second, exit. Or if you're just in a brick or cinder block structure, you're just straight going to the exit as soon as you start to feel the earthquake. My point of advice to you on this is not just to take shelter, which is always a good idea. Know what's outside the building. So if you're going outside, you're not walking into or running into a serious situation that's even worse than what could be inside, right? Things could be falling from further up if you're going outside. If you're going outside or if you're inside, you probably find it pretty handy and helpful to have an emergency kit. Now, I'm not talking about buying a bunch of stuff. You should have most of this stuff in your house. An extra bag, backpack, something like that. Change of clothes, set of shoes, batteries, flashlight. I mean, you may need to go buy an emergency radio. That's recommended, but you do want to know what's going on in case of a disaster, of course. So the emergency radio, it'll probably be something you have to buy, unfortunately. But the other stuff, you should have most of it around your house. Same with a few bottles of water and some lightweight food. I'm not talking canned goods, and I'm not talking meals ready to eat. I mean, what are you going to do? Pig out on the first day of a disaster? No, you should have fruit roll-ups and granola bars and lightweight stuff that you can put into your bag. Protein bars, those kind of energy things that are real easy to carry and don't take up much space or weight. You want to have it all fit in a bag that even your kids or someone who's with you in your house can grab on the way out. Or if you're sheltering in place, you just go grab it after the earthquake's over. You go dig through whatever and get to your bug out bag. But make sure your bug out bag, your emergency kit, is stored somewhere where it's not going to get trapped itself. So, don't throw it up in a closet somewhere. Earthquake happens, the closets can shift, and you might not be able to get into the door to get it. The door might not open. A door shifts in its frame. Next thing you know, you got the whole weight of the house pushing down on that door, and it's stuck in its spot. And that's also something you need to take into account when you look at your house and you're going to try to exit. Is there anything that can block the door? Do I have big couches and big cabinets and those kind of things right by the door? Because as soon as an earthquake starts, those things can go into motion. And next thing you know, you're having to move furniture before you get out that door. It would be better just to move the stuff now and get it out of the way, right? Just little things you can do. It's just, again, a point of an idea for you guys to do. Now, I would like you also, please take a look at the screen. I want to show you something that I am very, very happy about. Jump over here to my Dutch Sense store. There's a link down below in the description. You can come over and check it out. This is the new shirt, and it's only available for a few more days. I may renew it for 3 more days because people really do want it. Look what it is, guys. It's the USGS tweet that slammed me last week, or a week and a half ago. Dutch Sense is not qualified to be interpreting earthquake or volcanic activity, and any claims made by the account to predict activity are false, end quote. USGS public Twitter page, July 17, 2018. Back of the shirt says, another tweet, we removed a tweet this morning that referred to an individual. Tweets referencing specific individuals are inconsistent with USGS best practices. We apologize for the incident. USGS public Twitter, July 18th. So July 17th, the diss. July 18th, the correction. And notice, hey, they didn't even mention me by name in the second one. I made a phone call to them, by the way, and got through their social media department and let them have it in no uncertain terms, which you can go watch in a video over on my YouTube channel where it's public. You can go listen to the call that I made to the USGS. Let's just say there was no love lost in the call, but there is much love on my end. I am really trying to get the USGS and professionals to throw out their egos, throw out all the stuff that they thought they knew, and go back to the drawing board and figure out earthquake forecasting along with me here and not to fight it. So if you want a shirt, there it is. We also have a sweatshirt. I'm not a salesman, guys. I'm just telling you. If you want a sweatshirt, check it out. This is the Dutch Sense cold logo. And on the back it says, of course, Dutch Sense. So check those out. I would appreciate it. It supports my operation. And that's awesome. These are stickers if you want any of those. These are all stickers. We even got it made into a sticker. You can even get it in a sticker. Buy a piece of history. Buy a piece of history. I am the only person out of 350 million Americans and 7.5 billion people on the planet to ever be publicly disparaged by any of our science agencies, including the USGS. So it's an honor. I'm the only one. I went looking for them dissing on other YouTube video makers. There's millions of YouTube video makers saying all kinds of stuff about earthquakes and volcanoes. Even Planet X and all kinds of crazy stuff. Not one comment about them. Just me on my own. It's awesome. They have really, really gone above and beyond to try and stop what I'm doing. And as they try to stop it, they're running into the Dutch Sense effect. What's the Dutch Sense effect? Hey, if you don't know about the Dutch Sense effect, I'm not going to tell you. I'll let you find out the hard way. Oh, boy. Hey, will you please save this on your streams or wherever you can, on your social media? Will you please save this link for the live stream and get it out? Or I'll save this as a video, and you guys can share the video of what I just told you all. How about that? We'll do that as well. So look out for this over on my channel. Please share the link to the live stream so people can watch it. And let them know we get on here every single day almost and do our updates. It's the best I can do. If anything else goes down, I'll be back at a moment's notice, guys. Word up, peace out, and much love.